Welcome back to Buddha. Fight for freedom, freedom of the body, the mind, and the soul to set your spirit free. In this presentation, we will discuss soulmates, discovered and uncovered. Firstly, for those of you that have not listened to our previous three-part presentation, True Love and Intimacy, I urge you to listen to the presentation. It will make clear a significant part of this presentation, soulmates, discovered and uncovered. No doubt, most of us have heard about soulmates. But what are soulmates? Do soulmates really exist? To answer this, we must first consider what is a soul. In our previous presentation, we discussed the three aspects of a human being, the body, mind, and soul. We also put forth, for your consideration, what a soul is. We learned that the human being consists of the physical body, the mind or the intellect, and thirdly, life itself, that some describe as being breathed into them by God Himself, the living soul. This life source, energy, that we feel every day of our lives, some describe as chi, or a soul. Apart from mainstream religion, philosophers play a large part in explaining what a soul is. Let's look at some of the philosophers and what they have to say about a soul. Plato described and attributes the soul of having three parts: the logos, meaning the mind, the thymos, which means the emotions and the spiritness, and the eros, which is the desire. Plato described the soul as the essence of a person, that the soul is responsible for how we behave. Plato also believed that the soul is continually reborn in subsequent bodies. Aristotle also spoke of the soul. In a similar way, described the soul as the essence of a person. He believed that all living things had a soul, that souls conform to a hierarchical order, beginning with plants, being at the bottom, followed by animals, and finally humans. That the human soul is on top of the whole of the hierarchical chain. Aristotle argued that plants and animals, unlike humans, do not have a reasoning capability as humans do. We might refer to this reasoning capability as free will, as taught by mainstream religions. Unlike Plato, Aristotle believed that the soul dies with the person. It does not survive, nor transcends any further. In his works, he described the human soul after death as being asleep, and that the soul only survives and transcends after death in deeds performed by a person. Perhaps the best way to describe this is the legacy that a person leaves behind after death. The Persian Muslim philosopher and physician Avicenna, better known as Ibn Sina, and an Arab philosopher Ibn al-Nafis follow a similar proposition as Aristotle and believe that the human soul is expressed in the 10th level, the highest hierarchical level. St. Thomas Aquinas, following Aristotle and Avicenna's arguments, all argued that the soul in fact is immortal and does not die with the body. Many other philosophers and also psychologists argue their points on what is a soul. Many conclude that it is the I, the self-knowing, that more readily explains what the soul is. When we look at psychology, what psychology really means and what psychology really is, it is the study of the soul. Some believe that the soul can be measured, that a soul holds a weight. In 1907, Dr. Duncan McDougall, a physician in Massachusetts, USA, claimed that a soul had weight. He made weight measurements of patients as they died. He claimed that there was a weight loss of an average of 21 grams, which is about 0.046 pounds or 0.74 ounces at the time of death. Perhaps a simple way to think about a soul is through our Old English language. For that matter, many of the old languages refer to living people as souls. Just like on on ships' manifests, entries made in these manifests would refer to cargo as per weight of the cargo. In cases of living animals being transported, they were referred to as heads, such as 400 heads of cattle. But when people were in question, crew and passengers, they were referred to as souls. 200 souls on board, for example. Or when people were lost at sea, they would say 200 souls were lost. The International Distress Signal, SOS, adopted in 1908, became widely interpreted as standing for Save Our Souls. In 1999, the Morse code SOS was replaced by the Global Maritime Distress Safety System, but SOS still remains and is still recognized in visual distress signals. We must mention here that SOS was not meant to mean Save Our Souls. In fact, it was merely a combination of easily distinguishable letters that could be picked up by a receiver and easily interpreted. Although in the language of the day, Save Our Lives was akin to Save Our Souls, hence the adoption of SOS, meaning Save Our Souls. In mainstream religion, we also find reference to souls or a soul. The Baha'i faith teaches that there is a soul, that it is immortal and has no past. The Brahma Kumaris teach that a soul is a deep sleep, awaiting for a birth of a body, that through existence of the body, the soul expresses itself. Buddhism teaches that everything is in flux or constant change. As such, there cannot be a permanent self or a soul. Although Buddhism does acknowledge an existence of an immaterial being. Immaterial in this sense, it is not made, meaning that in this sense it is not made up of a solid substance. In Buddhism, there are schools of thought. The Yogacara, a yoga practicing Buddhism of India, state that there are storehouses of consciousness which continues to exist after death. Tibetan Buddhism teaches that there are three minds to a human being. The very subtle mind, which does not die with the body. The subtle mind, which dies with the body. And the dreaming or unconscious mind, referred to as a gross mind, which is not only non-existent after death, but does not exist while one is sleeping either. Tibetan Buddhism hence teaches that the very subtle mind lives on after death and latches on to a new physical life and becomes a subtle mind. Modern Buddhists, particularly those of the West, believe there is no soul and no afterlife, while other modernist Buddhists believe in an afterlife. Our purpose in this presentation is not to argue a point of afterlife or if a spirit exists. Rather, our concern in this presentation is to discuss the existence of a soul and our connections with a soul.